down versus powered off? Do you want to suspend it or anything else really? Do you want to restart it or actually reset the VM? Do I want to run the scripts associated with that? Do I want to upgrade the tools during the next time I power cycle a machine? So all of these are items that you would choose to interact with the VMware tools and what it will do. When the guest OS is placed in standby, what do you want to do also? Suspend the VM or put the guest OS in standby and leave the virtual machine powered on? Again, more options here. Down here under Advanced are a number of options that you're probably not going to be adjusting that often. Things like disabling acceleration or turning off logging because it's turned on by default. Some debugging and statistics. If you turn on these debugging and statistics information, you're probably going to reduce the performance of the VM as it goes through trying to monitor all the things going on. There are some additional configuration parameters that if you are working with, for example, VMware's technical support, you may adjust these or make changes if you need to change the permissions, or excuse me, the performance settings for your VM. But those would be specifically told to you for things to do. CPU ID masks, generally you don't touch this at all because for the most part you're going to want to expose both the NX and XD flags. One is from Intel, one is from AMD. That enables the vMotion compatibility. It's part of the vMotion compatibility with different machines. If you hide that, you might increase the compatibility, but at the cost of certain performance features. So again, you just really don't adjust these. If you really want to get advanced, you can actually go into the virtual machines and interactively determine which of the processor functions that you're actually going to enable or mask or change for a virtual machine. But this is way, way, way advanced level stuff, most of which will invalidate this virtual machine from being supported by VMware. So again, probably don't make many changes here with the CPU identification mask. Same thing here with memory and CPU hot plug. Right now, memory hot add and CPU hot plug are disabled, but you might want to turn these on if you have the need to turn them on. Most of us, except in a very critical, heavily mission critical environments, are really not going to make use of hot add or hot CPU. A lot of us can afford the couple minutes of downtime to shut the VM down, add another CPU, and then power it back on gracefully. We have some boot options here. ESX5 now includes the EFI boot firmware. I can set a power on boot delay so that I am sure that a virtual machine waits a little bit before it powers on. I can force directly the virtual machine to go into its BIOS. This can be important, really useful sometimes when you have need to go into the CMOS and adjust settings in the CMOS, because that CMOS goes really, really fast. By selecting this checkbox, the next time the virtual machine boots, you'll force yourself into that BIOS setup screen to make adjustments to it. Also, when the virtual machine fails to find the boot device, go ahead and retry. If you're using NPIV, if you want to make some changes here to your fiber channel configurations, CPU and MMU virtualization, again, most of the time you're going to set this to automatic because there's not really much that you can gain and plenty that you can lose with these types of settings. And then lastly, also the swap file location. So these are the options that are available for every virtual machine that are out there. I also, in the last nugget, talked a little bit about the resources and how you can configure different resource constraints on virtual machines. A lot of this doesn't make too much sense until we start getting into the notion of hosts and clusters, because it's clusters and resource groups that are really where the boundaries of these resource allocations are going to be set. That said, however, it's good to understand where resource constraints are set at a virtual machine level, because the understanding here will help you flow into the understanding at the resource group level, the cluster level. See here I have a CPU, memory, and disk as the three different types of resources that I can set allocations to, the most common of which are CPU and memory. They've been around the longest. I can, with